How is the Starcruiser living on through its people? Let's discuss. Welcome to Princess and Scoundrel, where we take you along our scrappily ever after, from Fantasyland to Tatooine and everything in between. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Steven.
And full disclosure, we had every intention of talking about the Wish Upon a Starcruiser that we just disembarked from recently.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things. Like we start planning, okay, what's the next conversation going to be about? And because it was such a, big event, we were like, okay, this is what we're talking about. But as we started kind of getting that conversation together, we started to realize that it wasn't necessarily about the cruise.
Right.
Because we'd gone on the cruise before and we didn't necessarily change anything. It was more about the community. And then we kind of started going from there, and how the community, is this Halcyon Legacy.
The legacy.
Yeah. So I think that's where the conversation kind of led to, and that's what we're going to kind of talk about, like, is how the cruise was affected by, the legacy of Starcruiser.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great way to sum it up, because yes, the cruise was great, and we talked about it on our last live stream in more detail of all the fun things that happened on there, but it really was the people and this intangible thing that happened leading up to the cruise and then on the cruise itself that really made its mark, I think, on a lot of us. So let's talk the Halcyon Legacy. Before we even get into that, why is it even so important, the Starcruiser? On our last episode, we talked about third spaces, and it was kind of the not the climax of the but the thing that we got to in that episode was that our ultimate third space, this place where you could really relax and get away, the place where you could socialize with like-minded people, and the place where you could really let go and play. For us, it was Starcruiser, and for so many, it was Starcruiser.
Well, I think what you were trying to get to was that it was a third space is like that important. It's so important for our mental health, because it was a place for us to relax, for us to play, to be creative, and be our true selves.
Right. Like, it's not work, it's not home. It is your third space.
Yeah.
And, well, we don't have Starcruiser anymore.
They took it away.
They took away our third space. And so we had to, as a community, figure out, what do we do?
Yeah. Well, and again, going back to the last episode, I kind of was making that argument that third space is sometimes now it's evolved into being some kind of like this virtual space. And I know we were in disagreement, but I think we were able to kind of keep those communities alive by having these virtual spaces. And yes, they kind of changed, because they were, here's for costume groups for Starcruiser.
Right. Well, even then, I don't think Disney realized it. I don't think we realized it at the time, that when we were setting up these Facebook groups, that it was creating this community, right?
These subsets of communities.
These subsets of communities of, different aspects of Starcruiser. So like you said, there was costuming, there was food, there was cabin sharing, there was deep diving into the storylines after you'd been on Starcruiser, there was planning for the Starcruiser. There were all these different groups. And when we set them up, we were just like, hey, this would be a good place for people to get together and talk about these things. At the time, we didn't realize that was going to be so important to the community that became the Starcruiser community. Like, that's what built it, was these Facebook groups and Discords and Instagram, all these other places. And I don't think Disney realized what they were building with Starcruiser, and that people were going to love it so much and want to connect with one another. It wasn't like going to Disney World and riding Haunted Mansion and then finding your tribe of people that also really
Yeah.
love Haunted
Which, I
Mansion.
mean, I think it still happens. I think
It happens,
there's some very passionate Haunted Mansion.
but like to the extent that Starcruiser
Uh,
happened,
I mean, I don't know.
maybe. We don't know.
I'm not in that group, so
We're
I
not
can't.
in that community. All we know is what we know, right? But the Starcruiser community, it blew up. It had a huge impact on people, and people needed. It's not like you could go on Starcruiser every weekend. It's not like you can get an annual pass and go all the time, right? So people needed that virtual community. And when Starcruiser closed, that was all we had, was the virtual community.
Yeah.
We had to, we couldn't have like a cabin mate finding group anymore, and so we had to merge some Facebook groups. We had to restructure some other Facebook groups and kind of like diversify them a bit, but we wanted the community to live on. And one of the things we did was the hashtag Halcyon Legacy.
Yeah. It was kind of a play on the comic book,
Right.
that the ship that coincided with the Starcruiser, and it's so funny. It's funny but sad.
Oh.
Sorry.
Ugh.
But it's I think they were trying to create a past lore for this, because if you know the story, you were celebrating the 275th voyage of the Halcyon.
The anniversary. Yeah.
And it was kind of creating this lore, this backstory. So it was like, here's the Halcyon Legacy. So within the canon, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And it kind of morphed into now meaning here's the legacy, not us experiencing the legacy of what the Halcyon was.
Right.
So it just kind of like evolved, like almost like from lore to real life.
Yeah, it really did, because it was the Starcruiser universe. We kind of took it and started hashtag Halcyon Legacy. Really, it was as a way for me to like cope with it a bit, and I knew I wanted to share like the impacts that Starcruiser had on me, and I was like, well, if I want to do it, other people want to do it, so let's just use this hashtag so we can all find each other and learn each other's stories of what this experience meant, if it changed you, if you started a new business, if you whatever it was, even if it was just like I got to spend like 45 hours with my kid not on devices and just hang out and like connect again.
Yeah.
There were all kinds of beautiful stories that came out of this, and so the Halcyon Legacy became, let's just share our stories. Let's share what it meant to us. Fast forward to now, 9 months after the closure, and Halcyon Legacy has kind of taken on a life of its own, in terms of now it's not just what did this ship mean to us, but what do the people that we met as a result of this experience mean to us.
Yeah.
And I think it's just funny, the evolution of this term, like how it has shifted. But at this time, to me, the Halcyon Legacy is, how does this group live on after this physical space is gone?
And that is how we kind of came to the cruise.
The cruise.
The idea. And I think that was, I say it's that it was like, oh, that's how we came to the cruise.
So
but
simple.
the idea was something that I think, again, it came from your it's a brainchild of yours, because I was fine. I'm fine with that virtual space,
Right.
the virtual, connections. But I think you kind of make that argument that you want to be in that physical, the physical world, and be able to connect with these people.
Right. I love traveling. I mean,
yeah.
It's a good thing I'm a travel agent. I love to travel. I love to be as far away as possible from my washing machine. That to me is like the idea of a third space, is just like I can't even think about laundry. And yes, the virtual community that the Starcruiser has keeps that, it ignites the spark, if you will, in the in-between times from when we could go on Starcruiser. But to me, where the real magic happens in this community is when people start getting together in like physical space. And I was crying. I was grieving about Starcruiser being closed. And I was like, what is it that we can do where we can all still get together? Because that was the wonderful thing. It was like, are you going to be on this voyage?
Well, but I mean, even from kind of that one of the voyages that we, on actual Starcruiser, we did the May 4th voyage. Mm-hmm. And we said, tell all our friends, hey, we're going to be on this day. Come come
Come
hang out.
on. Yeah.
And it was kind of a very nice takeover. You know, we all went at one time.
A friendly takeover.
Yeah.
It wasn't a takeover. It was a infusion of people that really loved Starcruiser all at one time. It was beautiful. It was the best voyage. It was the best journey.
Yeah.
And a week later, they announced the closure.
Well, but we were gonna say we're gonna do it every year. Like everybody was so like, let's do this
made that
every year.
announcement.
We're gonna do it every single year, and then they took it away.
And then they took it away. I even had put up like an interest form for people to fill out. So as soon as the next set of dates opened up and we could book the May 4th voyage for 2024, we were ready to go.
Yeah.
I had people on the list, and
Nothing.
days later, like literally, like I think it was like 2 days after I'd set up that form, they announced that it was closing. And so it was like, we were already looking forward to seeing all of our Starcruiser friends again on the ship in 2024. That wasn't going to happen anymore. So it was like, what can we do to get together? We landed on a cruise. We'll just quickly run through the reasons why the cruise came to be. One, you can't just meet up in Galaxy's Edge and get the same experience that you get on Starcruiser. Yes, it's an immersive Star Wars land, but you're not staying overnight. You're not like really getting to spend like good quality time because you're limited to park hours. You're limited to a lot of things. If you did want it to be Star Wars, you had to keep it within Disney, because Disney's the only place where you can really get like true Star Wars stuff. And Starcruiser was a 2-night space cruise. The closest thing you can get to a 2-night space cruise is an actual cruise. And they don't do 2-night ocean cruises. So we did a 3-night ocean cruise. And we did it on the Disney Wish because there was a voyage that started on March 1st, the anniversary. There's a hot debate going on over here. I don't know which one I think it is.
Yeah, this is where we kind of like, you know, I had that kind, like, not in a bad way, but kind of like, is it the 276th?
Seventh, because it's the second anniversary of it being open in the human world, right?
Yeah.
Like in our galaxy.
So it's like, which one is it? So I'm gonna kind of put the call out. Like, if you know, I'm pointing out to the cameras if you're listening to it. But if you're listening to it, if you're watching it, let us know what you think it is, or what what we should go with.
I don't know. So okay, but let's like explain a little bit, because the Halcyon, every single voyage of the Halcyon was celebrating the 275th anniversary.
Yeah.
For 18 months, they celebrated the 275th anniversary of the Starcruiser.
Yeah. It's kind of like a Groundhog's Day.
Like a Groundhog's Day. Does that mean that after 18 months, the Groundhog's Day ended and we're actually only like maybe to the 276th anniversary?
So
are we still groundhogging over here?
It kind of feels like we're getting into a little bit of a time travel conversation.
Nope, absolutely not. We are shutting this down right now. Leave a comment on what you think it is. We don't know if it's a birthday. We don't know if it's an anniversary. We don't know what it is. But we figured out, for the record, like, you really love time travel.
Because I'm just intrigued by it. So
my little baby brain like cannot comprehend any of that. I don't understand multiverses. I don't understand branches. None of it makes sense to me. So all I knew is I wanted to get together with my Starcruiser friends on March 1st, 2024. There was a Disney Wish cruise that lined up with it. We could have the hyperspace lounge and the cargo bay in the kids club during open house hours. And that's really it. Well, but we were like, that's good enough. Like, it's as close as we can get to a Starcruiser.
From the travel agent side, there was let's try to figure out what extra things we could do.
Yes.
Because we want as much of the immersive experience that we got from Starcruiser in this next, iteration of whatever we're doing.
Right.
And how do we do that? And then again, that's why you picked the Star Wars and Hyperspace Lounge. But we quickly found out that a lot of the Disney cruise ships are not necessarily built with what we had in mind.
With the Starcruiser community in mind.
Well, but
that's
I'm
for
just thinking,
sure.
Because again, we kind of talked about it as like a conference space, like being able to have just a dedicated room where we could have events and stuff like that. And like, we don't have that.
No.
Having characters. And this was something that we kind of, you know, shook our fists at the sky because they had Star Wars, you know, Star Wars Days at Sea, and they took it away because of Starcruiser, but now it's not back, even though Starcruiser's gone.
Are you trying to enrage me right now?
That's a whole other rant.
Ugh.
But that's not the thing. And so we couldn't have characters participate in the things that we wanted to participate in. So it was, we were faced with limitations.
Right.
And I think it just, to be able to continue what we were doing and what we wanted to achieve, we said, you know what? It doesn't matter. We're gonna keep going.
Right. Well, so okay. So yes, we could have booked in with a group. That was initially what we were gonna do. We were gonna do a big group booking. Lots of limitations were faced. Lots of requests were made. Lots of requests were unable to be accommodated because, like you said, they don't do Star Wars Days at Sea. They can't change the cruise for us when there's other people
Like
on
the
there,
itinerary and stuff
right?
like
Itineraries and all of these things. So, like, if you thought, like, oh man, it would have been nice to have, I asked about all of it. We could get nothing, and understandably so. There's business reasons why, but even just doing the group contract, there were too many variables within this group. It's not meant for that. It's meant for a family reunion where you've got a set number of people, you know, the cabin types, the people, all these things.
It wasn't flexible.
It was not.
Here's, you know, you start getting a contract kind of ready for 20 rooms, and the interest, like, that's on the back end. On the front end, you're asking people, hey, if you have interest, you know, let me know. People keep getting interest. Like, there's more people, more like, hey, can we modify? Can we modify? And
They're like,
and there's a point that
but
they don't let you modify, and they don't let you, like, they basically cut you off. And so you're like, well, I can't go. Like, I need to be able to.
I need to move like this.
Yeah.
And it was not like that. And so eventually we just like I said, just like with when we did the Starcruiser voyage and we couldn't get like a group booking on Starcruiser, I was like, forget it. Well, I'm just going to book everybody individually. And ultimately, we ended up having 75 cabins that we were personally responsible for. There were other people that booked like on their own or through their travel agents. I don't know what the number was.
And I think that's one of the cool things about it, because during the like swag swap and just again having conversations with people, that you kind of find out that there are people in the community that hadn't even gone to Starcruiser.
Yeah.
They are part of the community, and because everybody, like, they just vibed with the community.
Yeah.
They're like, I saw these people, like, you know, I watched, you know, videos vicariously, you know, through you guys. Like, I got to experience it, and that was the only way. Or I was saving up to go to eventually, but they shut it down. So, but they saw the community and how, you know, accepting and how like loving it is, that they wanted to be part of it. So even though you didn't book them, they still made a way on the ship and said, you know what, let's participate in all the events. And that was like such a cool thing of the community just like continuing to grow, even though Starcruiser's not around.
And I think that's the important thing is like, yes, there's logistical challenges and like things that we faced leading up to it. And like thank goodness we put 9 months between like when the idea started in this, because there was a lot that went on behind the scenes. But the people and the way that they showed up on this cruise was just like, what? Like, yeah. I cannot believe how much people, like the thought and the effort that they put into getting ready for this cruise, like they would have for Starcruiser.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the cruise itself a little bit and like what this community actually did on this cruise, because it was amazing. I worried for so long that people were like, is it gonna feel like Starcruiser? Like, yes, it's a cruise, like people are gonna have a good time, like you're on vacation, right? Yeah. Like it's gonna be a good time, but is it gonna feel the way it felt when you were on a Starcruiser voyage with like a lot of really cool like people you were vibing with?
I didn't feel like we were not gonna have a great time. I think that's you being a space mom, just kind of like worrying about something, because I was definitely excited for it, because these are my people, and I was like, I'm so excited to be able to hang with my people, and I think that was like the weirdest thing because I was initially hesitant to even get on a cruise ship, and not saying like I had a good time, but not a great time
On the first
on the
cruise,
first cruise,
not this one.
and then on this cruise, I was excited to be able to like I'm gonna have friends aboard, and I think that's what I was excited about. Is it wasn't necessarily the cruise; it was just I'm gonna have friends that I'm gonna be able to hang out with, and I think that was the thing that I knew it was gonna be, a success.
Well, I wish you had told me that and I didn't have to stress about it for so long, because I think I was so focused on the logistics of it, making sure that everybody's reservations were all right and everything was good. But we knew that we also wanted to infuse some Starcruiser stuff into this, because that's what brought all of these people together and that's what they're there for. And so we had some ideas of things we wanted to do, but we also put the call out to like, hey, like, we're all getting together. What ideas does everybody have about things that we could do? But I was putting on my space mom hat and I was like, what are things that we can do that do not impact anybody else's voyage? Like, people that are not in our group, that are just like booked on a vacation, we don't want to impact them in any negative way. We don't want to take over any spaces. We don't want to be disrespectful. Like, and we don't want to, any of the programming that is going on the cruise that we may want to do, like, that we're not impacting that as well. And people showed up,
Yeah.
and it felt like Starcruiser. There was a swag swap where, on Starcruiser at the end of the night at Sublight Lounge, people would just like give out like, oh, hey, and they like,
Yeah, here's some credits, or here's like things that they would, make.
yeah. So there was a whole thing for that. There was Saja meditation. There was trivia and scavenger hunts and all these beautiful things that people just put their heart and soul into, because this community wants to feel the feeling that they had when they were back on Starcruiser. We all miss it. We all ache for it because it had such an impact on every single one of us. Like, you and I are no different than anybody else in this community.
Yeah.
Like, we all loved this thing, and we loved what it provided us, which was this group of people that are so like-minded. And people prepared for this cruise like they did for a Starcruiser voyage, and that was absolutely just jaw-dropping to me, because I'm like, it's a cruise, like, but people showed up, and they showed up big.
So what would you say is your what was your biggest highlight of like the voyage?
Oof.
Or like your moment, like your memorable moment.
My memorable moment. I'd say I have two. Don't tell me to pick a favorite. I have two moments that really stand out to me. One of them, and that was one of the things that we did organize, was some group photos, because I was like, okay, Space Mom wants group photos. One, because I just wanted to get everybody together at like once a day, so that everybody could get to see each other, because it is a big cruise ship. Everybody was kind of dispersed. So it was a way to hang out. And then two, I just like my little babies. Like, I just wanted everybody there so we could have a photo. The very first day, the very first group photo was a few hours after we'd all gotten on the ship, and we were in it's called the Grand Hall, but really it was the atrium. Like, we all called it the atrium. And there was this stage, and they were setting up for a set that was going to take place later on. And I was like, oh no, I wanted to take pictures on these stairs, so let me go talk to them. And at the time, we'd gotten there like 10 minutes before the group photo was supposed to happen. There's like a couple dozen people there, and I was like, oh my God, such a great turnout. Like, this is amazing. And I'm talking to the cast members up there, and I'm like, hey, we want to take a photo. Can we use the stairs? It'll take us like 5-10 minutes. There's not that many of us. There's a couple dozen. There's not that many. The 5-10 minutes were good, and then we can like move the microphones back. And they were like, sure, lady, like, whatever you want, like, it's not a big deal. And so I'm talking to them like, thank you so much. And I don't feel like I was talking to them that long, but then I was standing up on the stage, and I turn around to see, okay, like, it's getting close, we're a couple minutes before, like, let me wrangle everybody onto the stage to get ready. There were over 100 people, maybe 200 people ready, like, that showed up. Oh, nope, I'm not gonna cry. That all showed up at once to take this photo and to be together, and just the impact of that moment, because it was really cool that everybody showed up, because we put the call out there like, hey, let's take this group photo, let's all get together. But it was evident that people were wanting to get together with other people like them.
Yeah.
That's what this was all for, was for a moment like that where everybody could be together again. And it just, I mean, it's hitting me now, and it hit me then. It's just like, whew. Because me, as a travel agent, I'm working on a computer all day. I'm just like making these little folders of everybody, and I'm typing their names in. And so I'm aware of everybody that's going to be on this cruise, but that's like just virtually. And they weren't just names, but they were names on my computer. To see those names as like actual humans in real space was just like, well, not real space, but you know what I mean? Um, it was shocking to me. I don't know why, but it was an absolutely beautiful moment. You asked me for one moment, and I'm like dragging this on. The second moment was the very last night of the cruise.
And I mean, okay, before you go into the next, but I remember on that one, there was so many people that we took the picture, and like you're talking and kind of thanking everybody, and people are like running up to get in the picture.
Yeah.
And we'd been there now like a good, and it's like wrangling cats. We were able to take the picture, and people like disperse, and how it just like it explodes. Everybody,
you're not
runs
getting
off.
Everybody back in that photo.
And there's people still running up, like trying to get in the picture, and we're like, man, that's incredible that there was that many people, continually, trying to make it.
And we had a sweet cast member take the photo of us. I don't even think he got everybody in, because like he just kept like scooting further and further back, and I still think like we cut people off because there were so many people. Like it was incredible. So then cut to the last night of the cruise. My moments are kind of bookending the cruise. The last night of the cruise, it felt like Starcruiser again, where it's like you didn't want to leave and you didn't want to say goodbye, but on a real cruise you have to pack your bags and like put them outside your door like the night before. So we had to go pack. You were talking to people in the atrium. I was like, I'm gonna go grab us some packing beverages in the hyperspace lounge. And so I went in there one last time. I also was going in there to like get data and like talk up the bartenders and be like, so exactly how successful was this
Oh
cruise?
yeah,
We'll come back to that. But I went in there and I was like, let me get my drinks. I'm in there, I get my drinks, and the Halcyon, one of the beautiful things about Hyperspace Lounge is it's got these screens, and the Halcyon comes by, and everybody's just like cheering for it and like has their phones out. And I did like a 360 and recorded everybody, because it was just like, as I was doing that, it kind of had that same moment of like, everybody, like we all in this moment feel that thing. We feel it. We feel connected. We feel together as one. And it was beautiful. And at that moment, somebody taps me on the shoulder and was like, hey, Sherry, one of the people in the group, but I think a lot of people know Sherry, was like, Sherry has something she wants to give you. And I was like, okay, like, well, let me pay for my drinks. Like, I'm not going to skip out on this. I'll pay for my drinks. I'll be right over. And so I get our drinks, and I go over there, and she presented me with this essentially like a yearbook or like a card, like a book. It was an empty book. And during the course of that cruise, she had all of these people that were there from this community sign the book for me and for us with just sweet words of like what this cruise meant for people. And instant tears like shot out of my eyes. I was a puddle on the floor. But it was evident that there is a need. Like, one, it was very sweet. Like I said, we're no different than anybody else in this community that just really loved this thing. I was the weirdo that was like, I've got an idea, let's all hang out. But reading through it, it was evident that people really need a place to get together like this and to just like relax and relate to one another. And we don't have that anymore. And I think like it was beautiful, but also just like incredibly frustrating that we're now having to figure it out on our own.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I mean, I think that's my, kind of my moment.
Yeah. What is your moment?
Like my thing was, again, I was excited to be able to talk with friends, and that's what I was able to do. I felt comfortable. Like, even though I wasn't home, I was comfortable. The entire trip I was, relaxed. And it's funny because I felt busy, but every time it's because I would go from one conversation with with someone to someone else.
Yeah.
And this is where I think, like many others, is being able to really have conversations with people. It's not just a hello, how are you doing, but you get to sit down and sometimes have a drink, but got to really know that person. And that's what I was able to do. I was able to sit down with some people and just really get to know them and really talk to them. And I've always kind of said I'm more introverted. I kind of keep to myself, but it's more of, if someone wants to listen, I'm there to talk. Or if I'm always there to listen if they want to talk.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it gave us, the time to just sit there and talk and have converse.
Right.
And that's where it was just like the best time for me. It was just when you were talking about we had to pack, like you were like pulling me away because
you
just
did not want to leave.
I did not want to leave. Like it felt like Starcruiser, where it's like I didn't want to leave. Like,
and packing was very unfun.
Yeah, it was very like I was like throwing things in the suitcase. Like that would have been the end of Princess and Scoundrel, because I was just like throwing things in the suitcase. I was like,
pulling
I don't
things
want to
out of the suitcase. I'm like, we need passports to get off the
ship. We need clothes. I need socks and shoes. But no, I was just like, I wanted to go back. I was just like, throw everything in suitcases. Like, I want to go back. But it was, you were faced with that, like, that responsibility of we gotta pack and leave,
and it's over. Like, there was only a finite amount of time, but just, it was amazing.
But go back.
Let's talk about the stats of this cruise, because that I was not.
Let's see the numbers.
Let's crunch some numbers. So Disney knew we were coming. We were unaware of this beforehand.
Like, good on them. Good. They're keeping their ear to the ground. And
appreciate you, Disney. I don't think they realized like how much this group was going to show up. Like, we are Starcruiser people. Like, I think we love a lounge. And there's two things that they offer specifically in the Star Wars bar there, the Hyperspace Lounge. There's the Kyber Crystal drink, which is like infamous for being the $5,000 drink, right? And it comes with all these other things. Like, it's not just a drink. But then last October, they also introduced a coaxium drink, which was like super dope. It's only $400.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah. So like the coaxium it's this tin.
It's big too.
Yeah, it's a pretty big. Like, it's, I think, a little bit slimmer than a Camtono, a little bit taller, but when you open it, it has like this
like water vapor, like fog.
Yeah. And then you pull it out, and it has like 3 little vials of coaxium. It's 3 different drinks, but they light up. So it's like the whole production of it's really cool.
And you keep it.
Yeah, you get to keep it. You get to take it home.
You don't get to keep the Cantono when you buy the Kyber Crystal. So they have that. That just came out in October. When Hyperspace Lounge opened at like 1:30 on Embarkation Day, people rope dropped the Hyperspace Lounge and started buying these drinks up.
Like, scheduling them for the rest of the...
Yeah, and that was cool because you could like buy it and basically like schedule when you wanted to have it. So people got to like participate in it. It wasn't like a bunch of Kyber crystals all at once. So at the end of the cruise, when I was in there that last night, because I kept every time I was in there, I was asking. I was like, talk to me about the stats here.
Because I remember on the first day, there was a bunch of boxes that were being brought in.
Yeah.
And there was like the whispers of like, they're bringing more. They're bringing more.
Yes. And they did. They absolutely did. So the Hyperspace Lounge opened 1:30 on Embarkation Day. They sold or scheduled 4 Kyber crystals in the first hour. For like everybody to know, the only time they've ever done that before was the inaugural voyage, or like the media voyages, when they had people that needed to report on what this thing actually was, because there was a lot of mystery surrounding it. That was the last time that they've ever sold that many. They've gone months without selling a single Kyber crystal.
And this is the $5,000 one.
$5,000. People are asking us, they're like, are you going to buy? We're like, we will happily watch. Then they sold out of the coaxium that they had on board, because they only had like 1 or 2 on board. And then all of a sudden it was 3 hours, I think, after the lounge had opened. All of a sudden, all these boxes started showing up in the lounge, and we were like, oh man. they had to bring in more.
Yeah, they went down to the inventory before the ship left.
And at the end of the cruise, they had sold 17 coaxium.
Man,
They were limited and they sold out of it. So they brought on 17, they sold 17.
I bet they could have sold more.
They could have absolutely sold more. But there was no way for us to relay any messages to them ahead of time. Like with Starcruiser, they knew like if a big group was coming because we were loud about it on the internet, but it was Starcruiser and like it's 100 cabins.
Yeah.
Like a Wish cruise has like
Yeah, I mean, like pretty much our group could have filled
a Starcruiser voyage.
Yeah.
That's how many of us there were. So yes, they had to adapt to us big time, but you know what? They accommodated and it worked out.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's what the Halcyon Legacy has kind of become, is the community being resilient and overcoming the ship being gone, but we are still able to bring life and positivity where we're going. Because I don't think there was ever a complaint of, you know, hey, there's too many people here in the atrium or the grand hall or whatever. But we just brought positivity, you know, out on the beach. People saw us, you know, dressed up and, you know, said, oh yeah, I like Star Wars too. And you're like, we invite them into the party and say,
here's
hey,
a swag bag.
Yeah, like here's some stuff.
Yeah. I was a space mom. I was very adamant about like don't negatively impact other people's trips. But even just talking to people on the ship that were not part of our group or crew members or cast members, everybody loved this group. Like we did bring light and we did bring joy, and we had crew members or cast members that were like off the clock just coming to hang out with us,
Yeah.
which was wonderful. It was so great.
But again, I think that's we're always open and inviting to everyone.
It is the most positive and inclusive group. And yes, like it is a big group of people. Like we're gonna have like a diversity of like opinions and lifestyles and all of these different things. But overall, like this group is so supportive and so welcoming and so willing to help. Like if there was something that was happening and it was like, hey, we need some people to help with this, instantly 10 people raise their hands. We're like, well, we've got it.
Yeah,
we'll do it. Where else do you find people like that? This community that the Starcruiser created, the impact that it had on people to want to find other people and then as a result build this community. I don't think that exists in other fandoms. Maybe there's Haunted Mansion people that are just like really hardcore and like really cool, and if so, I want to meet them. But this Starcruiser community is something special.
Yeah. It definitely makes me proud to be, you know, a part of it. So.
Yeah. I mean, let's be cheesy about it. If the Starcruiser ignited the spark, this community and the legacy that it is leaving behind in this people is continuing to light the fire. And I'm just...
And I mean, I think that's why we kind of like, we're gonna try to do it again.
Not try. Do or do not.
Do or do not. Okay.
We're doing it again. It's going to be, who knows? Is it a birthday? Is it an anniversary? We don't know.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure that out. But we are going to keep doing these trips because I think, one, it was great for just us to get together with people, but I think it's good for everybody to get together and continue to grow and connect. We did put a survey out there to my clients that was just like, hey, what'd you think of the length of the cruise, about the Disney Cruise Line, about where we go, and all of these different things to try to help shape it, because it's not something that we picked the first one because we're like, okay, well, this seems like a good idea, but now it's up to all of us to figure out where we go with this next.
Yeah.
And so we're working on that. But like you said, the beauty of the Halcyon Legacy is that it is an incredibly resilient group of people. No matter where we are meeting, we're going to have a great time.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness it went the way it did. I am so, so happy. My heart is so, so full. I am still, I think, like in shock that it went as well as it did, because like I said, I stressed about it for 9 months. But I think that's a good place to wrap up this episode. We do have, and we want to talk about this a little bit because you love a virtual third space.
I do.
And we have a virtual third space.
Yeah, so we have our Patreon, and kind of within that is the Discord. So if it's somewhere you want to come hang out, Patreon, that's where we kind of post things that are not necessarily they're just like the random things
Not
that we're doing.
polished.
They're just like the random things that we're doing, around the house or whatever, preparing for the episode, or just ramblings that I have. It's my little safe space. But also we have Discord, so if you want to come join the Discord, come join the Discord. And again, it's just coming and hanging out.
Yeah. And it's free to join the Discord too. So we have the Patreon, we do have a paid tier, but then if anybody wants to join the Discord, you can do that with a free Patreon membership. So come hang out with us. Let's talk about all the things. Let's talk about Star Wars books. Let's talk about costuming.
Yeah.
Let's talk
Just
about
random things.
The sweet shirt that Steven made. But that is it. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Until next time.